you compost, you actually want a mix of things is the best thing to do. Now, if all you can do is compost leaves, that's really great, right? But if you really want it to be beneficial, think of all the table scraps you have coming out of your home. And you can mix what's called the green waste, which is this or grass clippings or whatever, and the brown waste for the best compost. Also, that keeps you from putting all of these in little plastic bags, hauled away to be in landfills or incinerated, whatever your community happens to do. And it's very easy to do. If you get a pail like this, right? Or like, there's a green one here somewhere, this. You can keep it in your kitchen, and when you cook, you can just dump stuff in here, put the lid on, and when you have free time, you just take it out to your compost pile. So the good thing about these two is if you let it wait too long, if you don't get it out every day, if maybe it starts to smell a little, you never smell it because there's a charcoal filter here, right? So you put it in here, sight unseen, nothing. So
would you like me to talk about the do's and don'ts, what you can and can't
Sure,
put?
yeah,
okay.
Do that.
Okay, so this is what you want to put in your compost. You want to put in any kind of fruit peels, vegetable waste. In general, you don't want to. In general, you don't want to put any cooked food, particularly cooked food that has any oils in it. But if you happen to have, steamed vegetables left over, like edamame or something like that, you can put it in. No dairy, no grains, no meat products. Eggshells is a great thing. You could put tea bags. You could put coffee grinds, nut shells, peanut shells, anything that's raw fruits, vegetables, nut products can be put in the compost. In order to minimize the amount of flies that might end up in your compost, you want to balance it with brown waste. So the rule of thumb is you want to put a little bit more brown waste than green waste. So the best thing is to mix your fruit and vegetable scraps with some leaves, or you could even put some soil in. Or if you don't have leaves or soil, you could tear up some newspapers, and that's considered brown waste. You could even line your kitchen composter that you have on, keep on your countertop, line it with some shredded paper. It'll keep your composter clean, and it'll also help with the balance of green to brown composting waste.
Now, and you don't need to actually put a bag in here. If you're queasy about it for some reason, and there's no reason to, you can see, we're touching all this really. But if you are, they do make bio bags that are compostable bags. You can actually put a bag in here, and you can tie, knot it up. You wouldn't put a rubber band or something like that. And you can throw it straight in the compost, and it'll degrade. Personally, it still takes some energy to make those. So to me, it's better to just have this. But I would rather somebody start composting, and if that's what it takes to make you start, then okay,
Okay. Now, you're probably wondering, okay, where do you compost? So the easiest way to do it is to purchase a composter such as this.
And I just want to thank Seacliff Hardware, because they lent me this. It's obviously taped. It's still for sale. And they let me bring this here for this demo. But this one, you would put things in the top, and then it's got a little drawer here. You can pull it out the bottom. You can pull the finished compost out the bottom.
Yeah, so you could use that for composting. They even have composters that are on rollers that help you churn the compost. They have various designs. Some of them are balls that you put your waste in, and you could actually roll it. It's great for kids to roll the composter. The most rudimentary way to create a composter is to just take some chicken wire and section off a portion of your property, and just dump the stuff in there. Dump your leaves, dump your grass clippings, dump your fruit and vegetable waste. So that's a low-cost way to do it.
And the other thing about doing it that way is you can hardly see it. I've got several on my property actually, and I have less than 1/4 of an acre, so it's not that big. But I find that what I do with the bins, I have so many leaves, so I'll toss the leaves in. They'll go down. When it's lower, I toss in more leaves, but it's really almost invisible from the street because it's the wires, and then it's green and brown, and it blends into the property, so you can't even tell that there's a compost bin there. So.
And how long is it? How long is it before you have, usable mulch from it?
I've noticed. I got my new composter last spring, and I started putting in the springtime. I got it, and I started putting waste in, and by the fall time, it was full. So I stopped using it, but kept on turning it, and by the next spring, it was beautiful compost. So I would say, depending on where you have it, if you have it in a sunny spot, you're going to have your composition of the compost is going to be faster than if it's in a shady spot. But generally, in less than a year, you'll have nice compost.
It depends
waste.
on how much attention you pay to it. One of the things about I actually do have one of the rolling composters as well, and the several things matter. How often you turn it. It needs to be aerated and turned and actually have the proper amount of moisture. That's the fastest way to get it. If you don't want to do that much work, then it'll just take longer. No big deal. It's better to compost and have it take a little longer than not compost at all. My first pile that I ever had, I just happened to have the time to devote a lot of time to it. And I'd be out there in the winter. I'd be turning it, I'd be aerating it, mixing it up, making sure it had the right amount of moisture, and that would be done. That could be done in like 4 or 5 months. Mine isn't usually done that fast now because I'm too busy to do that. But I still get compost. I usually keep one pile that's finishing and one pile that I'm still working on. So.
Yeah, and if you're like me and you don't do it 100%, it's no more than a whole, a calendar year, but it should be less. It definitely should be less if you're paying attention to it and it's in a sunny spot. That, compost requires heat, requires oxygen, so you want to be turning it. It requires moisture, and it requires, the green and brown waste. So if you have, the magic mix, definitely in a few months, you could have a beautiful mulch and compost to
My property, by the way, though, I have almost no sun. I have almost total shade because I have a lot of trees, hence a lot of leaves, and I still get compost. It just takes a little longer, that's all.